Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I hereby call this meeting of the House Judiciary Committee to order. Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Representative Banta.
Present.
Representative Blanton.
Here.
Representative Bratcher.
Here.
Representative Bray.
Present.
Representative Burke.
Here.
Representative Dietz.
Here.
Representative Down. Representative Flannery.
Here.
Representative Heron.
Here.
Representative Kulkarni.
Present.
Representative Lewis.
Here.
Representative Maddox. Representative Mosier. Representative Nemus.
Here.
Representative Petrie.
Here.
Representative Rawlings.
Present.
Representative Sharp.
Present.
Representative Stevenson. Representative Wilson. Vice Chair Decker.
Present.
Chair Elliott.
I'm here. And we do have a quorum, so we're duly constituted to conduct business. Are there any members who wish to recognize any guests before we begin? Vice Chair Decker, you're recognized.
I would like to welcome my first cousin, Jerry Ingram, who's here with a group today from Bardstown, Nelson County. It's a 4-H group, ages 9 through 17. So if you all will welcome them today. Thank you.
Welcome. Is there anybody else with any guests? So we have 6 bills before us today. An ambitious agenda, and the first bill that we will hear is House Bill 3, an act relating to human trafficking. Representative Suzanne Miles, who is the majority caucus chair, and if she would come forward and introduce herself and her guests introduce themselves, and you may proceed.
Thank you, Chairman Elliott and Vice Chairman Decker and members of the committee for hearing this bill today. I'm Suzanne Miles. I'm State Representative of the 7th District, and I'll let my guest introduce herself.
Good morning. Heather Wagers with the Office of the Attorney General. I'm counsel to the Deputy Commissioner of the Counter-Exploitation Office.
We bring before you today the bill about human trafficking. We did some human trafficking legislation in 2020, and we are trying to continue to advance that legislation to mirror what federal does and things like that to make sure that we can, to the fullest extent, penalize the people that are predating on all of our individuals that shouldn't be. This is, full disclosure, as far as I received a notice this morning that we will have to have a financial impact on this bill, so before that it could go to the floor, if we make it through committee today, we will have to wait on that. So they've identified, and we're assuming it's to mirror with the federal, it's what that's coming from. One of the other items I want to go ahead and bring up today is the National Human Trafficking Hotline. That number is 1-888-3737-888. We want to make sure that that number continues to get out there, and that was part of the original intent whenever we did in 2020 the legislation. I believe that was House Bill 2, to make sure that we have that number out there in all of our public transportation sites and things like that, so that if we have victims that are out there, they have the opportunity to see that number, and it's an easy number to remember in case they need help. Just to kind of go over a few of the things that are going to take place as far as the adjustments. Like I said originally, we are mirroring on the federal, on the first section. The next thing that we are adding into this is a working group under the Attorney General's office. And that is that he can create a working group of multiple items in this. I had spoken with Representative Heron last night. She had some input on a possibility of adding other groups to this list, and I'll work with her the possibility we may do a floor amendment to include that if necessary. Obviously, the Attorney General's office, I won't speak for them, but I do think that they will be very welcoming for the opportunities to add some things in as far as the different groups that are participating. The other thing that is probably most notable in this, originally when we did it, we did poster size that were to be displayed in all of the places, and those are a little bit cumbersome sometimes, and so we've come back and come with 3x3 films to be added, 8.5 by 11, or the 3x3 films that could be added to the mirrors in truck stop bathrooms, airport bathrooms, any of those places, with that to make it a little bit easier access to distribute that. Originally, we did not put any penalties for not complying with signage and things like that. We've given them 3 years for the opportunity to do that. Now we're coming back. They will get a warning the first time. Added in this bill, it'll be a $50 fine a day until they have something of signage out there after that in all the different public transportation places and things like that. So that's the kind of in a nutshell. I'll go ahead and defer to Heather if she has anything else that I've overlooked that she wants to add.
Thank you. Sex trafficking and labor trafficking occur in many different settings within the communities, and victims of these crimes have different experiences. So it is extremely important to have a holistic approach to this where everybody's input is valued and appreciated. And so I just am appreciative of the opportunity to work with the General Assembly, and I thank you all for having us here today.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I think that there is. Representative Burke.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the sponsors. I think this is important legislation, and I'm happy to see it. I just wanted to ask one clarifying question as it related to the signage. Are those signs to be prepared by each place? So will hotels have different signs than bus stops will have different signs, or are they going to be standard so that they'll be recognizable from place to place?
In the past that we've allowed them to do their own signage, but the information was provided from the Attorney General's office specific for that. We've had conversations, the possibility of working with Transportation Department to kind of have a uniform sign along with the information that has to be out there. It does have, as you can see, it does have on the signage for it to be in English and Spanish, so to make sure that we have a bilingual outfit to that. Would you like to add anything to that?
Sure. So the National Human Trafficking Hotline, as well as the Blue Campaign for Homeland Security, they already have a sign that you can order for free, so that's no cost. And so there's that option as well. And so we will provide one. One of the key important factors is that it's 8.5 by 11 for the poster, which means anybody can print it. The other one was, I believe, 11 by 14, which meant you had to go to a special print shop. And so we're trying to really give options.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
Representative Heron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative, for bringing this bill forward. And we did speak yesterday about some of the things in the bill, and I completely support it. I just do have a little concern about the imbalance of I don't want to say power, but the imbalance of representation on the working group. I would prefer or like to see that potentially a victims advocate group would be able to co-chair this working group if it took place. I think that we have to make sure that we're always centering victims at all things that we're doing. And then my other question for you from the AG's office, I know that there, since 2013, there has been already a statewide human trafficking, I think it's called Human Trafficking Task Force. Are you all currently working with them or have worked with them in regards to this legislation, or how does that group fit into what the AG's office's vision is for dealing with human trafficking?
The Attorney General's office is part of the Human Trafficking Statewide Task Force. There's many facets of that. We are, just like you said, you want to make sure this is a holistic approach. Victim service organizations are crucial and critical to this working group. And so I can promise that that will be the thrust of how this is approached, regardless if any language is filed, because we could not do our jobs as prosecutors, as law enforcement without them, as well as survivors. And so I know that Representative Miles got some insight into from the report that they issued, and that was some of the nexus for taking up their recommendations. So I see that going forward as a continued process, a conversation.
Ma'am, Mr. Chair, just thank you for that. And I do hope that we can potentially change language and to ensure that if this happens, that one of those groups would be able to co-chair. Thank you.
Representative Stevenson.
Thank you. It's not like this is my first time using this. I just have a question. What's the difference between the statewide and what this will provide?
It'll actually be an opportunity to kind of have a place that it would be housed. In fact, the Attorney General's office actually brought information to me yesterday, and that was part of it, this data report that they had brought to me and sent it to me. So I've looked it up this morning and kind of read through it a little bit more, and we're kind of mirroring some of the same things that we're wanting to do. It appears that this group, and I'm not familiar with this group, so I don't, other than what I've read online, I'm not as familiar with this group. And a lot of times as legislators, and the Attorney General's office is very aware when I reach out to them on issues like this. My question is, what do you all need from me as a legislator to help you all do your job better? And I think sometimes we kind of, sometimes that overlaps and sometimes it doesn't as far as that goes. So I think as far as the group that originally, I think it was over 10 years ago that the group kind of came together, and the way that I read on their site, it's kind of gone in and out. I think they continue to meet and things like that and make recommendations. But the only information I had was their report and a news article is all I really had from that. So the intent would be, if it's housed underneath the Attorney General's office, hopefully it'll be a collaborative effort of